Faberlafsgarn merino. Smells sheepy. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Eventual podcast. My name is Leah. I am also known as Miss LJV on Instagram and Eventual on Ravelry. This is episode 9, I believe. I considered filming outside again today, but I decided I had way too many things to bring with me, and so I'm just filming here on my oversized chair in my living room. So the lighting's a little interesting today. It's like overcast but bright, so sorry if my shadows change and whatnot. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2019, and I am so happy to be here. So the last time I had recorded, I didn't record for a couple weeks because I was sick, and then this time a lot of it was that I injured myself. On a Friday, I fell asleep on the couch, and then I woke up at some point, went to bed, and then sorry, there's a loud noise outside, like something, like a tree cracking or something. I went upstairs and I went to bed and it was fine, and then I woke up in the morning and I was like, can't move, like can't get out of bed. I something in my shoulder blade felt really pinched, and it was super deep, like you couldn't even touch it by pushing to try to massage it. It was insanely painful. Taking a breath was painful, breathing out was painful. Any remote twisting in any direction, sitting was uncomfortable, laying down was insanely uncomfortable. It was pretty bad. And so I went to a random chiropractor local in the city and got, whatever, did all the intro stuff, and he did end up cracking my back, and it fixed it. It's still, that was last week, and I still feel kind of sore, but I can breathe and I can move, and oh my god, I can't even imagine going to work with that kind of pain. So that's why I didn't record. I was just really sore last week, and it has been really insane. A lot of call outs at work, and so I've been doing a lot of covering, and so I'm really exhausted every day. But don't think I forgot about the podcast, because I love doing it. I'm happy to be back, and I have been following and listening and watching all the time, because knitting is it's a good place to be. So I hope you have something comfy and delicious to drink. This is my Knit Happy mug from Sow's Ear in Verona, Wisconsin. It's right by Madison. Got my coffee. So since being here last, there was Yarnover, as well as local yarn store day, and they happened to fall on the same day this year. And so on Saturday morning, Steve and I went to the hotel. It's at a hotel in a couple of the ballrooms. We got there around 10 or so in the morning. I think we had breakfast first. I can't remember where we went though. I think we went to French Meadow, and yeah, it was good. And then we got there. It was just really casual. Yarnover is just the local Minnesota knitting, crochet, yarn event, and I have only actually gone one year, and it was last year for the first time, and it was huge and packed and busy, and I was there all day, and I went to 2 classes, and it's put on by the Minnesota Knitters Guild, of which I am a member. It's not super expensive to join for the year, and I don't go to really any of their meetings at this point, but my plan is to start going sometimes, and I want to start that this summer. It felt like this year there wasn't as many vendors as last year. It didn't seem as hype as last year, and I'm not really sure why. The one ballroom felt a lot emptier because they moved the Stephen B display from the small room to the big one, and you know, Stephen B brings a lot of stuff to theirs, and they're usually 1000% packed. People love going to Stephen B, and that's actually where I discovered Stephen B last year, and I mean, I go to their store, so I didn't really check out their booth so much this year. But because of that, the one room felt really empty. I went specifically looking for project bags, and last year there were several different booths with people who were selling project bags, and this year it was really just the one. And so, well, two, I guess. So I have a bunch of, or several things that I bought from there, but as long as I'm here, I'll talk about it. So I bought these from Becca Ron. They're just little ones. This one says, I am one with the yarn is with me. This one is more of an inside joke with me and Steve. So it's just like a little notions bag, you know, that kind of thing or whatever. And then the other one I got is work less, knit more, because it's true. There was a bag in like drawstring, kind of canvasy, the light canvas style. I can't think of what it's actually called. That said, like, it had like stamped on it, like, if I can't bring my knitting, I'm not going. And I didn't buy it because I didn't feel like I would use it. I prefer project bags that I don't want to say that zip. I think maybe sturdier is what I'm thinking of. So it was a little bit cheaper material, or like thinner material. And so I didn't buy it, but it's like, that's like literally how I feel. If I cannot bring my knitting to something, I'm really not gonna go. I don't want to go. I don't want to be there. In one of Yarn Harlot's books, she talks about how there was one time that she, and oh, I'm sure there's more than one time, but she writes about one time where her family went to a restaurant, and it was only a few blocks from her house, and she realized when she sat down and got there that she forgot her knitting. And she goes through this whole process of like, do I say I'm going to the bathroom and sneak out and get my knitting? Do I just tell them I'm going to get my knitting? Like, it's only 2 blocks away, and like all this like back and forth, like rationalization, like, I'm gonna go get it. No, my family's gonna make fun of me because they think I'm crazy. You know, all of this stuff. And then she eventually just like, and then she talks about how like knitting helps her feel like she can deal with waiting, that she is not impatient, that it keeps her from messing with people and or getting really irritated and all that kind of stuff. And I can't remember if I read an excerpt of it to Steve, but I definitely brought it up to him, and we talked about how I, no shame, would have gotten up, would have walked the couple blocks home, and then came back with my knitting. Like, if we're gonna be there a while, like, I need my knitting. There's been many times in the recent past where I get to a place and I'm like a little early, like an appointment or something, and I realize I have forgotten my knitting, and I just spend the entire time just like angry at myself for being so dumb that I would forget my knitting, or like to like, why did I take my knitting out of the car? You know, that kind of thing. Like, I have my knitting with me all the time. And recently I was knitting at a staff meeting, and I was working on one of my projects I'll show you later, and it's a long shawl. And I mean, like, people comment at my work if I don't come with my knitting, and they, you know, people like to ask about it and see projects or, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, anyway, back to Yarnover. So I was kind of disappointed that there weren't any a variety of project bags and that kind of thing, but I did get one project bag, and I was really happy about it, and I hemmed and hawed for the longest time about which one I wanted, but I got this like medium to large size project bag because I have a lot of small project bags, but I don't have any super big ones, or many super big ones. So I have this one. It has a little clasp and a clip, and it is by Clever Hound Creations. Yes, I spent a lot of time at this booth looking at every bag, deciding which one I wanted. It's nice and deep, and it has a rectangular bottom. Oh, I also bought, and it has beads for the zipper that are, I assume, sort of skein shaped. It has little dragons on it. It is, I call it my Trogdor bag. It really reminds me of the comic for Trogdor in Strong Bad's Emails. But yeah, I felt a little guilty because when I finally decided on this one, another woman was like, if you didn't get that bag, I was totally gonna get it. But I was like hovering, you know, I was definitely like, I was being annoying. I was stood there for a super long time trying to figure out which bag I really wanted, because there was one pattern that I liked slightly more. I think it was llamas on it, and it was like really brightly colored, but it was a little smaller. It was more of a 2 skeins, like if there's 2 color sock kind of bag, not more of a shawl bag. And it's like, nope, I want the Trogdor bag. So I got that. Those are the only 2 bags that I got. I'm happy with them, but still a little disappointed. And so yeah, we walked around, we looked at everything, we did a couple laps, we noted yarns that we were really into, things that jumped out at us, different booths, and like 3 Irish Girls were there, Black Cat Fibers was there, I'm blanking. Oh my god, why can't I think of their name? Just give me a second. It's because I keep wanting to say Tunilla Chicks, and it's not Tunilla Chicks. Leading Men Fiber Arts, God. Yeah, so Leading Men Fiber Arts was there. The person who I love to look at their mugs was there again, and she had, I was really into the fat kind of squat mugs this time instead of like the tall thin mugs, and mine is downstairs, so I can't show it to you, but I'll show you next time. And yeah, so did a couple laps and bought a few skeins of yarn, and Steve was super supportive, and it was a lot of fun. I liked talking to the indie dyers. I did buy mostly indie yarn. I think about only indie yarn. What I mean by that is like small sellers. So like Stephen B, you know, Stephen was there too. He said hi to us. They are selling the indie dyers yarn, right? Like I'm thinking like the people who did the yarn, and then they were also running their booth. There's a cat scratching a scratching post right now. So I was really excited about that. I love discovering new people and new yarns. So, and it was really nice because this year it felt like more accessible than last year for Instagram. And so like if I found someone I liked, I immediately looked them up on Instagram and followed them so that I could be like, okay, I want your stuff again next year. So let's get to the yarn that I got from there. First things first, as long as I'm talking about Leading Men Fiber Arts, I got this skein of yarn from Leading Men Fiber Arts, and it is their Monologue yarn. The colorway is Merlot, which is a perfect description of it. It's like definitely like a wine color. It's a fingering weight yarn, 523 yards, 65% superwash merino, 20% silk, 15% yak, and I bought it to go with this yarn. So this yarn is an Elaine Yarns, and Elaine the tagline says hand-dyed yarns inspired by travel. So the entire booth was like different, first of all, different like sections of the world. So like these were my like UK stuff, and this was my, you know, like different parts that she visited. And what's extra cool about this is that the yarns are dyed for places that she's visited, but she also, with each one, has a picture of what the inspiration really was. And so like the inspiration for this yarn is called, I think Celtic Sunset, yep, Celtic Sunset, and look at that. So super cool. So this one is, it says Celtic Sunset worn suitcase fingering, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon fingering weight. It's 463 yards, 100 grams. And yeah, so it's super cool. And I got these two to go together so I could weave a scarf from them. So there was a scarf that was on display that really inspired me. It was actually a scarf that was like a lavender, light lavender, whitish kind of scarf, but it was still like the way it ended up being woven was really inspiring to me. And so I bought this, and then I was so hyped, and I went and started setting it up. I got the entire loom set up, and then I was like, wait, this is a fingering weight yarn. I definitely, my loom, which I got this loom for my birthday in November, and so I haven't had it that long, but I only have one heddle for it, and the heddle that comes with regular like cricket looms is a worsted heddle. So I had like warped the entire thing, and I had started actually weaving, and I was noticing that there's huge gaps in it, and I thought, okay, well, if I just really beat it together, like, right, so like when you're weaving and you put the weft in, and then you beat it down so that it's, you know, the fibers squished together. I thought if I just squished hard enough, they would go together, and it didn't work. So I ended up ordering so I think the one that I have is a 10 dent heddle, maybe 8 dent, I can't remember, whatever the one for worsted weight. And then I bought a 12 dent heddle, which is for fingering weight. And it's sitting over on my table over there, and I have it about halfway switched over. I'm gonna need to rewarp everything, but in the meantime, want to get I'm not gonna like waste all of that yarn that I have on there, and so I'm putting them through the heddle slots, and then for the remaining, and then I'm gonna, I don't know exactly. I guess my plan is to unroll it, I guess, once I have them through there, and back to their regular, yeah, I have to do that because I have to go all the way back to the beginning to add more, because obviously heddle that has narrower slots is going to have more slots, and so I need to go back and add more. But at the very least, I'll have those ones threaded through. I'm assuming it's gonna work out. Like, I'm not gonna like waste all of that yarn. So anyway, that's what I bought it for. I am still really excited. It's just like so much work if you do weave, you know that like the most annoying part of weaving is the setup, and so it's like so defeating. It's just like silly, frustrating to have to like go back and do it again, and I did such a good job, and it's just anyway, so that's the yarn I got from there. The next yarn that I got, I think this is actually all the yarn that I got. The next yarn that I got is from Yeti Yarns, Yeti Yarns, Minnesota. I got this skein. It's called Wine About It, and I don't know, I had, I guess, this kind of theme, which I don't really own a lot of yarns like that, but it's called Wine About It, and it's a drop bear DK, 75% merino, 25% nylon, 245 yards, 224 meters, and I got that to go with this yarn. So it's for a shawl. I'm not exactly sure which, but it goes with Tell Me Again How Night Ends, which is another drop bear DK, same thing, for Yeti yarns. And yeah, I thought this would be a really good contrast color for this. Definitely some sort of a shawl. I'm not 100% sure what I had in mind at the time. I definitely set myself up for failure when I was putting this back together. But yeah, so she was really pleasant to talk to. Her yarns were super good. I really wanted to buy a lot of them. And I settled on the 2 because she was the last stop for me for the day, and I just felt like I didn't want to spend too much more money, and I knew we were going to visit some other yarn stores. That's better. For local yarn shop day. So that's what I got from there, and as I said, I got a few progress markers, and yeah. So after that, we went to, did we get lunch? We did. We went and got lunch, and after that we went to Knitting from the Heart, which is my my closest local yarn store, and I didn't really buy anything from there. I think I bought something small. I think I bought little scissors. Yeah, I don't think I really bought anything else. And then I stood around and talked to a couple people for a while, talked about Yarnover, talked about local yarn shop day, just talked about yarn, of course. And then after that, I went to Darn It Anyway, which is in Stillwater. And I'm really happy that we went there. It's, you know, it's right on the St. Croix River, and it's really like scenic and gorgeous. It was pretty chilly. It was colder than we wanted it to be, and it was like overcast, but it wasn't too bad. It just was like just a little too cold at the time. It was the end of April to start walking around. It was still in like the 30s, upper 30s, maybe low 40s, and windy. But we went there, we looked at a lot of things. The only other time I had been there was for the peep shawl, and I'd only been there. It was really busy that day, and it was so hot, and it was packed, and so I didn't really look around. So that day we spent a lot of time looking around, and I ended up getting a skein of the knitted wit worsted, and the colors, local yarn shop Giggles. It's 100% superwash merino, 200 yards. And yeah, so I got that. It's really cute. I'm not really sure what it's gonna look like, but I loved the colors. They had a few other local yarn shop day colors, but I thought this was the one that spoke to me the most. And they also had, oh, it's on the floor. It fell down. They also had a pattern. It says a Darn It Anyway exclusive pattern. This, I don't know if this was for local yarn store day. No, it was for Shop Hop, but they still had the patterns, and it was a collaboration with Knit Circus, which is located or locally in Madison, but you can buy yarns all the time from them online, and I buy them all the time. But they have a two different scarf patterns. One's knit, one's crochet, and I didn't buy any Knit Circus while I was there just because I have Knit Circus in the right amount, and so my plan is to use one of the skeins and knit one of the knit. I want to do the knitting pattern just because on this particular one I like it better than the crochet one. So the knit pattern is called Wow, the crochet pattern is called Amazing. And it's because, so for Shop Hop, the theme was games, and I assume theirs was the carnival because it says carnies don't sweat their gauge. Step right up was their like phrase. So yeah, happy to get that. I think any Knit Circus yarn will look good in that, or any like highly variegated yarn will look really good in either of those patterns. So yeah, after that we got some amazing tea and pastry across the street at the local cafe. It was super strange. It's like a very narrow shop, and then instead of having us like go out and around to like the hotel like cafe area, they had us kind of go through the sign on the open door said like, you know, the employees only, and it looked like a cave, and she had like gestured for me to go that way, and it was again, it's a very small narrow shop, so I like went over there and I was like, where do you want me to go? It's like, okay, just go to the door, go to the right, and you like emerge from like behind the concierge desk at this like super fancy hotel. Like they're all like connected and almost a strip mall, but it's like a cafe, a hotel, and then like a fancy restaurant. And so I don't know, it was super strange. Like I think she was saying we could go sit in the restaurant, but the restaurant looked really fancy for us to be going in there with a tea and a pastry. So we just sat in like the hotel lobby and watched like a bachelorette party come through. So yeah, that was my Yarnover 2019. I am pleased with what I got. Do wish there was a little bit more in the way of bags. Looking at my yarns. I do have a couple more I want to talk about. I hope you are not over inundated with yarns. Like this is like the amount I've acquired over a month for various reasons. So the next story I have for you. Oh no, I have so many yarns. I'm so happy. I'm so like, these yarns are all of some of the best yarns ever. The next one I want to tell you about is this yarn. So, if you were looking closely when I was showing it to you, this is Jojo Farverlofsgarn Merino. Smells sheepy. So I was scrolling through Instagram one day. This is why Instagram is sometimes dangerous. I saw these socks and they were in this gradient and I died. It was so beautiful and it was in German, and I can't remember what it said. Like it was kind of like half English, half German. What the caption said, but it was talking about second sock syndrome. Like whatever words that they used for second sock syndrome looked really similar to English. So but whatever. The point is, I knew it was German, and I fell in love with the yarn, and they had hashtagged Jojo and the company, which is garn manufacturer, so I imagine what yarn manufacturer, I don't know. And yeah, and so I went to this website. I was on mobile, so it didn't offer me the option to translate anything, and so it completely in German. I like typed in Jojo. There was tons and tons of yarns, and I scrolled until I found this yarn. Here's the other skein of it. So I scrolled until I found it, and then I don't know if this is supposed to be the ply or what, but I was able to order 2 skeins of this. This yarn is not expensive. I'm pretty sure I paid twice as much for shipping from Germany as I did for the yarn. And I don't care, just because I wanted this so much. So it comes with a cute little card that on one side is German and the other side is English, and it's basically saying like they hand like put everything together. You can see that there's like a white plied with it, or it's like not even plied, because it's not twisted. It's just held together. And so it said that they do all this by hand, and so there's little knots. Like they said there's supposed to be really tiny knots throughout the yarn that connect the various colors and parts and stuff like that. And it said like don't undo the knots. Like they're small enough that when you're knitting, even if you're knitting socks, that it's not going to be a big deal, it'll be fine. And so I don't know, I thought it was super interesting. I should have grabbed the card, so I'm going to go do that right now. So it says, these appealing gradient yarns are being made for you in our creative yarn factory. All these different color gradients are handmade. By using up to 8 different colored yarns, the skeins reach its unique combination of color. The change in color is done by knotting together the single threads. The endings of the threads are left long, which makes it easier to use them until the end, so please do not open the knots. Stroke over the ends of the thread at the end of a color and simply knit or crochet these threads. If there are any threads left at the finished model, just cut those off if need be. Even though our employees are skillful, it may happen that some loops have been produced. If so, please do not push those further along, because then some jumble of threads may arise. So I'm picturing like, right, like if you have a knot and then there's a loop because the yarn didn't go all the way through, and then you try to push it, then all the yarns sort of like puff up and snarl. The loops can be knitted or crocheted over in the next stitches or in the next row. Later, these loops can be sewn up. You can choose to use the skein from the inside or from the outside. In doing so, the gradient is determined individually. Please make sure that you use quality needles, since this will make it easier to use the ply yarns. It will also be easier to retain fun in knitting and crocheting. We wish you a lot of pleasure in making and wearing the model you have chosen. So, super cool. Super cool. I was very happy to get the yarns, get the ones that I wanted. Yeah, so I did the whole thing, the entire process in German by stumbling through, using Google Translate, whatever. I had to check off like 4 different boxes saying that I agreed like to pay shipping fees. It was very interesting. So yeah, that was my adventure in getting a German yarn. Next, I have as long as I'm here. Okay, 35 minutes, all right. For the first time, I was watching a podcast on YouTube, and there was a suggestion in that podcast to go to someone else's podcast. And so I'm always in the market for new podcasts. If you have any good yarn podcasts, crafty podcasts that you love, please put them below. But anyway, so I went and was watching this podcast, and it was a good podcast. I enjoyed it a lot. And like, I love podcasts that are long, like really the longer the better. And I was enjoying it a lot, and it was over an hour. But I felt like the podcaster was rushing a lot. Like she was talking really fast and trying to cram everything in. Like obviously she had a lot to say, but it made me feel kind of dizzy, or like it made me feel like, wait, you're saying so many things, let me think about this. So I hope I haven't been talking too fast on this episode. In life, I do kind of talk really fast. I do try to cram a lot of information in a small amount of time. But I want to consciously make sure that I am talking at a reasonable pace instead of trying to talk really fast and rush from one thing to the next. So I hope when I watch this back when I'm editing that I have done that, because I totally didn't think about it and I don't want to be rushing. So I just think that it's a little bit calmer and more relaxing when you're having a more calm, relaxed podcast versus one that you were super rushing into. And I don't know about people who are watching my podcast, if you just have me on in the background, or if you're actually watching it and you prefer a shorter podcast. But me personally, as a viewer, I like a longer podcast because I do usually have it I'll set it up while I'm cooking, or while I'm cleaning things up, putting the laundry away. I really like to have a longer podcast. Even 35 minutes is too short. That does not feel like anything. It feels like 2 things got talked about and now you're already leaving me. I like the 45 minutes to an hour a lot. So anyway, next thing. A couple months ago, I had seen these socks and they were knit using Artemis yarns. And I fell in love with Artemis yarns immediately. It is so unfortunate for me that she lives in the UK, because I want to buy all of her yarns. And so when I was on her website, I found a yarn in a colorway that was sold out. And I think at the bottom it said something like, if you want a custom color, just message me. So I emailed her and I asked her if she, I told her that I wanted to knit some socks, I wanted a contrast color, and I told her the color that I wanted. And she was super great, and she emailed me back and forth. She sent me different pictures in the color that I had requested, different yarns that fit that criteria, and it was just a really pleasant experience. And so what I ended up getting, so this was a couple months ago, and then because she lives in the UK, it just took a little while to custom dye and then mail to me, and so I just got it relatively recently. But the yarn that I wanted was this. It's a lavender. You can tell more, I think, from farther away. It's a lavender base. The color's aconite. It's an artisan sock yarn 4-ply fingering, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's 425 meters and 100 grams, so it's a lot. It's a nice hefty fingering skein. And then the contrast color is just a solid peach. I really wanted to do these two together. I really wanted to do a contrast color. I can't remember which sock pattern I wanted to do this for. I think I wanted to do the Andrea Maury socks, I think. I can't remember the fade socks, even though it's not a fade. I really feel like this would look good in reverse stockinette. So I got these, a really good experience. Follow Artemis Yarns on Instagram. All of her yarns are insanely gorgeous. And yeah, so got these ones. And then lastly, for yarns that I have acquired recently is this yarn from Jackson Yarn Co. Ooh, blown out. It's a coral. I still feel like it's coming in way more orange. I actually got a really good picture of it with my cat, who is orange, by it. I took a couple pictures of it and it was super blown out, very orange. Yeah, this is the picture I got. That's really orange. I wonder if you'll be able to tell in this video, or I mean, in the podcast. It's kind of close, it's better. I posted it on my Instagram. I don't know if I put it in my story or in my actual Instagram feed. But I got 2 skeins of this coral color. It's called salmon. So if you're like, oh, I know what salmon color looks like, that's what this yarn is. It's so, so beautiful. It is definitely gonna go in some sort of a shawl. I cannot wait to wear it. And so yeah, I've been putting yarn, so I had them in this little arrangement here. Oh, I have one more yarn. Yeah, one more yarn that I want to talk about. So I had them in this beautiful arrangement on my coffee table. And then the other yarns that I just showed you are like in a little basket on my stash bins, my stash cubes. Yeah, I'm super loving DJ's yarns. He's got some really good yarns. And he just started out. He was just talking about how he finally has been able to order more skeins at a time so that he can dye more and not sell out after 12 seconds. And I have, luckily for me, he lives in the central time zone, but like he lives down here in Texas and I live up here in Minnesota. And he like has been posting like cute updates on Instagram, like little videos, and he went live yesterday morning talking about what colors he wants to do next. And like he specifically mentioned how no one had said anything about liking the reds. Like he posted a picture of some red yarn that was called maraschino cherry. It was very maraschino cherry and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It's just not my color. Like it's was a really like bold, vibrant red, like so cherry red. Like it reminds me of like a sports car, right? Like so cherry red. And people suddenly in the live video were like, oh, I love the red, you know. And he was like, oh, seemed a little miffed by it. Like, hey, you guys didn't say anything when I was mentioning the red before, you know. It's like, I love his goldens, his salmons. He's gonna put a bunch of blues in the shop, he said this time. Yeah, go check out Jackson Yarn Co. He's just started dyeing. Really cute. I've talked about him in a few other podcast episodes too. I think that is finally all of my yarns. Only 44 minutes later and I've gotten through all of the things that I have acquired. So I'm sorry if you wanted me to talk about my projects first, because I didn't even think about my projects first. Because I had so many yarns I needed to go through. You know, it's because I had thought, you know what, I wonder if this is going to be like just an acquisitions episode. But since I'm already here, I'm not going to make it just an acquisitions episode because I don't have all that much to talk about for my projects. I have no new completed projects that I know of that I can think of since last time. Because I was sick, and then after that, because I was hurt, I couldn't really do a lot of like completing anything. But after that, or since then, or in the brief times where I was well, I worked primarily on my Goldfish Memory Shawl by Casapinka. Oh, there's some pens in here. So I am so close to being done. It's like embarrassing. I should have just finished it by now, but I got really excited by the next project that I'm going to show you. So I am almost done. So we start here. And then we go here. And then we go here. So this lace section here is the last part of my shawl. Like, I just need to finish, I think, it's just a few more repeats. And then I bind off and then I block it and then I'm done. That's all. So I was at a staff meeting last week and I was working on this section here. And I was standing because I didn't want to be sitting. And I had my shawl like draped over my shoulder and I was just like just knitting back and forth, you know, just standing knitting back and forth. And I started panicking because I was getting to the end of this like garter stuck in it, and I was gonna get to the lace, and I can't do lace during a staff meeting. And so I was starting to panic, like, oh no, I'm not gonna get done in time, or I'm gonna get done with too much time left, and I didn't. But it was just really funny. At first I was knitting it with the shawl dragging down, but it was so heavy. So yeah, I'm like, it is definitely, I posted a picture on my Instagram. It is about as tall as me. I'm 5'2", and so yeah, and when I block it, it's probably gonna be even longer. I cannot wait to finish this. So this shawl is knit in fingering weight yarns. 2 of the yarns are from Hedgehog Fibers. One of the yarns is this orange, which is anemone, and the yellow is banana legs. And then the contrast color white it's Ching Fibers, and it's salt. Yeah, all of these yarns are very vibrant. They are perfect for this weather. Right now it's like in the 60s Fahrenheit, and this will be like the biggest shawl I've ever done. And I am so close. So next time, you guys, I will be finished with this, and it will have been blocked, and I will be wearing it next time. I don't have it with me because I forgot that I started it, but I started my second sock for my Friday I'm in Love socks. I started it, I knit a few rows, and then I immediately was like, I have to jump to the next thing. So I started this sock. This sock is done in my Knit Circus yarns. I believe the colorway is Girls Run the World. It is a fingering weight yarn. Oh, let's hop back to this. This is knit on my Chow Goose, I believe. Yeah, on Chow Goose. Don't want to lose those. This is size 6, 4 mil. Yeah, Chow Goose. Anyway, this is, yeah, Girls Run the World wool nylon. This is a pattern called In a Jiffy that just came out like a couple days ago in a collection by Shannon SQ, Shannon Squire, Shannon SQ on Instagram, and it's a part of a sock collection that is being released. And so this is, so normally I knit my socks on size 00s. This called for knitting the socks on size 1s. So I normally knit my socks on 00s. I think I said last time why I do that is because I want to knit with 64 stitches and I don't want to change it. And so I've just been doing that and it's been fine. But this time I was like, I want to try. I just want to try it. I want to see what happens. So the pattern description says that if you chose 62 stitches, you would end up with a sock that is 8.75 inches circumference, and my foot is about 9 inches circumference. And so I was like, okay, I'll pick the 62. And so I got to here before I was like, okay, I mean, I have big calves, so this is fine. but this is gonna definitely either be bigger than 8.75 and or it's gonna be too, like, it's gonna be too loose. It's not gonna be, like, even if it fits exactly, that's too much. Like, it needs to be tighter. You want to have negative ease on socks. So I, what did I do? I decreased 4 stitches in one of the rows. So now I'm down to the 58 stitches. So from 64 in a double zero to 58. We'll see how this goes. I might even go smaller for the second sock. We'll see. And the yarn is Knit Circus. It comes with 2 skeins. It's a gradient, a slow, or like a slow, not gradient, but like, I mean, kind of a gradient, but it's a speckled gradient. And I'm probably going to knit the second pair out of the remainder of this ball because I'll definitely have enough versus using the matching skein. I personally do not care or like necessarily sometimes that my socks matching. Like, I have a lot of self-striping. I do have self-striping socks, and they do mostly match, but like I prefer polar opposites and I prefer like mixing it up. Like I don't need my socks to match, and sometimes I like it when they don't match. So anyway, this is in a Jiffy Socks. It's got a really cool like design pattern. Like, it's been a lot of fun to knit up so far. The pattern does come with a toe up and a cuff down version, and I chose the cuff down version. I'm really liking the gusset. I'm really liking doing a gusset. And this is a staggered slip stitch heel, and I love the way it turned out. So I started these on Saturday, and it is now Monday, so really Saturday and Sunday. And I stopped for a long time on one of the days to hang out with some friends. So yeah, it is in a jiffy. This does knit up really quick. So those are really the only 2 projects I've been working on. I had hoped that I could show you my completed month of April for my Whether or Not scarf, but I don't have, I'm like April, I got to like April 28th or something, and then I didn't do the last couple days, and so I don't want to show you until that's finished. Oh, I gotta take this off. I don't want to show you until like the actual month is finished, so we can review the month together. Oh, and these are Addies. These are size 1 Addies. I've been super into wanting to knit or crochet tops. One of the biggest benefits for me personally of being able to watch podcasts instead of listen to them is that I get to actually like see the item. So like I feel like listening to a podcast, it's nice to like, ow, I poked myself with my size 6s. That hurt. I'm trying to get comfy in this huge chair. So, put my feet on there. What was I saying? In listening to a podcast, you can hear a really good description of something, but I feel like it really doesn't do it justice in trying to find the item. And when I'm really thinking about listening to podcasts, when I first started listening to knitting and crochet podcasts, I listened to them mostly when I was driving and when I was in the shower, because I have a waterproof shower speaker. And so when I like specifically remember so many times I'd be in the shower and someone like the Yarniacs would be describing a sweater that they knit, and this was before I even thought I could ever knit a sweater. And I'd be like, okay, and like repeat the name of it over and over again, try to remember it. And they talk about sweaters all the time, like multiple sweaters. So I would always forget which one I wanted, and then by the time I would have like the time to go through and look and like find it, I would have like lost interest or not remembered why I liked it in the description or whatever. And driving, obviously I'm not going to remember anything anyone talks about in terms of like specific patterns. So the benefit of a visual is that it gets me really excited about the garment. And so I have been like really into wanting to knit a bunch of socks and wanting to knit or crochet tops. So I'm still wanting to work on the Summertime Tea by Toni Lipsy, and I still that's just been sitting downstairs languishing and making me feel really guilty. And a lot of that is because I'm still a pretty beginner crocheter, and so I just can't remember the stitch in between. Like I have to like relearn it. Like I know it's like something with chaining 3 and something with going in the thing, and you know, it's like I have most of it down. I just need to like get that quick refresher, and so I've just been avoiding it because I'm a baby. But I wanted to highlight one sweater. So I saw in whose podcast did I see it? In My So-Called Handmade Life, she was wearing the Lady Bat shirt by Teresa Gregorio. I believe, yeah, it is a knitting pattern. And it is a very like loosey goosey summertime sweater. And she said that like it's like nice enough that you can wear it to things and you get lots of compliments, whatever. Like it's just a really good knit. That's like definitely something that I want to be working on. That seems super good. A shawl that I really want to make is the 54 cowl. Oh, you know what? I might be wanting to do cowl. Wanting to use those 2 contrast yarns in the 54 cowl possibly. Nitty Natty was wearing, yep, it's right here. Nitty Natty was wearing this really cute, the bottom one. But yeah, the 54, it's saying that there's 54 like variations and ways you can do it, and hers was so simple. It's just garter, really, and then but like, you know, you can like make it as complex or not as you want. Complex or not as you want. So like this one had designs and, you know, whatever. There's a bunch of different things, and that made me want to do it. I also added a worsted sock pattern that I'm really excited about, because if I can do worsted socks, then I can like knit Steve socks so much faster, because his feet are so huge. And if I can do worsted, then I'll use less stitches, it will go a lot faster and be a lot more fun. There was another sweater. Let me look at my wish list here. There was another t-shirt style sweater that I really wanted. I don't know where to find my wish list. Where do I find a wish list? Ooh, I have some cool things in my favorites. Look what I just rediscovered right now. A sushi scarf. Cute! So Summertime Tea, I'm working on the Lady Bat. Yeah, or maybe it's just that I've been seeing a lot of people in like t-shirts or like short sleeve sweaters. Oh, and of course there's a knit along, a knit along for the crop top that I made from Nancy Ricci, the My Boy Lollipop, and I haven't started it. I have the yarn. It's been wound for like a month. I wanted to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm super excited to make it, and I want to wear it, and I have ideas for the like new shirt with the smaller needles and the longer hem to like fix with my curves, and I haven't started it yet, and it's the middle of May. I'm gonna start it, I promise. A couple weeks ago when I was at work, I was talking with some 8th grade girls, and you know, they were teasing me for knitting, and they were talking about how, you know, it's an old lady thing, and even though one of them learned to knit from me, I mean, she's not like a master knitter or anything, but she knew how to do a few rows, you know, when I taught her. And I was like, ladies, excuse me, please look at this crop top that I knit. And while I was pulling it up, one of the girls looks at me and she's like, crop top? Miss Via, you know that a crop top is like a half shirt, right? Oh my god, it was so good. I was like, yeah. And I showed them, and they were like, what? Wow, that actually looks really good on you. That's a cute shirt. It's like, yeah, you can knit amazing things. If you know how to crochet, you can crochet amazing things. Like, it's not just for old ladies with boring patterns. Come on. So it was just really funny. Oh my god. Miss Via, you know that a crop top is a half shirt, right? So funny. Yeah, I'm really feeling like I want to do all the things, and I hate that I only have one me and only one time. You know, like, I need more hours in a day. There was a Humans of New York post recently where in the middle of the paragraph the woman said, time is life, or something like that. And it's like, what I kind of took from that is like, your time is your life, right? So like, how you spend your time and how you fill your time, I mean, really is how you live your life. And I'm one of those people who's like, I'm terrified of death, but not so much like the act of dying, so much like, I have such an amazing life and I don't want it to end. Like, I don't want to not have this amazing life. I don't want it to change. I don't, you know, want to give up this like amazing existence that I have on this earth. And so it's like her saying time is life, like, I want to spend my time doing my amazing knitting, and I want to make so many things. I have such like a drive to be knitting and crocheting and weaving and making things, and it makes me feel so happy that I have found like the craft that is me. Because when I was younger, I used to do like bead animals, and then I desperately wanted to draw. Like, I wanted to be a good artist, because I felt that like creative drive, and I couldn't figure out how to like get it out. And I'm terrible at drawing. I'm not good at drawing. I am good at looking at something and kind of copying it, like not tracing exactly, but like mimicking it, and I'm not great at it by any means. But I'm mediocre. I am a upper elementary level elementary school child level, but it still wasn't like satisfying. It wasn't like really getting my creative like juices out, and I'm not great with computer like art stuff. And I did fleece blankets for a little while, but that's not super creative. It's just like doing a crafty activity. And so when I finally was able to teach myself knitting and get good at it, like, it's so satisfying. But like, I just right now I'm feeling like I want more. So yeah, I think that's all for my knitting crafty stuff, all of my crafting stuff. A couple other things. Life. Because I was sick, and then because I was hurt, I haven't played any ITG this month. And that's unfortunate, because we're in the final round of the tournament I'm in, and I haven't even started, and it's halfway through May. But I will get to that at some point. Just probably won't put up great scores, and that's fine. We had this month's gamer weekend where we got our friend Noah and brought him up for the weekend, and this weekend's theme was 90s, and so it was games and food that we remembered from our childhoods. So we like went to the store and we bought all things that were like nostalgic and reminded us of our time in the 90s. Sorry, my low battery light came on. I don't know what that did to the video. And so it was so funny because we look at our cart and it's just all junk, all processed foods, all like like Gushers and Dunky snacks, you know, like um, uh, Noah got a Lunchable. We Pop-Tarts. I mean, all of those are like regular things. You know, Doritos. But what were like the big things? I don't know. It was all stuff that like it gives you heartburn and is not food, and it was just silly. We talked about like drinks that we used to drink. Like you know, I drink coffee and tea and water, and you know, and none of us drink sodas really. And so they decided to get like Capri Sun instead of soda because that was, you know, a nostalgic thing. Oh, the Cosmic Brown, you know, like Little Debbie snacks, and I don't know, it was just silly. It's just stuff that we don't really eat. And it was fun, but it made for a weekend where we all felt super sick all weekend. Like I had a headache forever, huge stomach ache, like it was just silly. A lot of things from my childhood I couldn't get because I'm vegetarian now and I wasn't then, and it's like Slim Jims, you know. Oh, we got pizza rolls. That was like the food that we got. Yeah, it was funny. It was just a funny thing. But like the big way that I participated in Gamer Weekend when I wasn't knitting my sock was that Steve and I did a Super Mario World race. So I grew up playing the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, but one of the primary games that I played as a child was Super Mario World. And Steve had not really played it that much, and he like fully expected to like be able to like compete with me in a race, and it was just hilarious. Like I really like, it was a turtle in the hare sort of situation. Like I meandered along, and it was like a let's play. I was constantly talking to him about what he needed to do because our race was a 96 exit, which means you play every single level, get every single exit in the game, and so sometimes that meant beating a level twice, you know, or more than that, and that included beating those crazy hard star levels. And so I think that if I had been playing it by myself, I would have been somewhere around 3 hours, maybe less if I was like playing hardcore instead of just like enjoying the levels. I think the world record, I think he said, was like 122 or something, so somewhere between 2 and 3 hours I could definitely get. But because I was like helping him and because I was watching him, and I would like get up and make tea and like you know, heat things up and take knitting breaks, you know, it ended up taking me, I think, around like, it would have been like 3 hours or 3.5 hours or something. Steve ended up taking like 6 hours maybe to get it, and I played 2 levels for him. I will give him some credit. He was playing on the Retron, and the controls were just a little bit delayed, and that can really mess things up, especially if you're not familiar with it. Obviously I was able to overcome that for mine, and I was playing on the actual Super Nintendo, but it really got me hype to do some runs of it. Like I think that I could do some speed runs of Super Mario World, like not competitively, like not world record or anything, but like stream it for like Noah and some friends. And yeah, I thought that'd be pretty cool. So it got me excited for doing that when I'm not knitting. And the last thing I want to talk about before I end my podcast here, this is the longest podcast I've done, is so there's some big changes afoot. Like there's getting a really big change in my life here. I have decided that after 5 years of teaching that I would like a break. So I applied to a job at the U of M, the University of Minnesota. That's where Steve works, and I got a position in their IT department. So I'm not exactly sure what the role really looks like. Steve said it's like really specific, and there's like projects and stuff like that. Like I'm not like help desk or like support or anything like that. It's my title is like technology trainer and document professional. So something about like editing documents and then like dealing with like dissemination of materials. And so it's like tangentially related to teaching, and several people in the department used to be teachers, and so it's just like a general like whole new area. But I'm really excited. That means that not only will Steve and I like actually be working like together in the same like area and company. The U of M is obviously a good institution to work for, but it does mean that like when we're looking for a new place to move to, we live in a split level single family home, big yard, cul-de-sac. You know, there's only 2 of us and we have 2 cats. Like, we don't plan on having any sort of a family beyond what we already have, and so it's a little bit too much space and in the wrong kind of way of what we're looking for. And so we're kind of always looking for a place to move to, but we've been content to stay here up to this point. But now that we both will be working at the same place in the same part of the Twin Cities, which is not anywhere really near where we live right now, you have to cross St. Paul and get into Minneapolis before you get to our buildings. We're like shifting our search now to like really like the Minneapolis area, which is a really big change, and I'm looking forward to those changes. It is really sad, of course, to leave teaching and leave my students, but you know, students who want to be in touch with me, you know, they do. They find me. They find me, and I don't think that I'm gonna be not engaging with children. Like I think that I work really well with children. I'm not leaving teaching because of kids. It's definitely a more system-based and burnout sort of situation. Not because of the kids. I love the kids. So like, I don't know, tutoring, just generally being involved, attending things with my old colleagues, like all of those kinds of things will still be there. I'm not done with children by any means, but in terms of classroom teaching, I really think that it's time for a change, and I am looking forward to what the future holds. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the idea of working like with Steve. We won't like directly interact much, but we're in the same department and we'll be nearby each other. We can carpool and we can have lunch and, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's gonna be really good, and it starts pretty much right after my teaching ends, and that's fine. It's not a big deal to lose my summer. It's actually gonna be really nice because I'm gonna be getting paid for teaching and then also my new job. But we're gonna put that money away, I believe, and we're going to go on a trip next year, so that's exciting. Yeah, so other than that, I'm just really looking forward to the weather finally being nice. It looks like it's gonna storm a lot this week, but actually stay warm. There are like 18 school days left, and yeah, then I'll have a end of an era sort of situation. So I think that's it for this week's episode. Leave me a comment below. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.